All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Budgeting, Bookkeeping, Taxes, and Small Business Finance. I am your hostess, Sharonda Hill with Trufund Financial Services. So today, we want to thank our sponsor. Our sponsor today is veritexcommunitybank. Thank you, Veritex. So upcoming next, we'll have a few words from Natalie Castillo. She is the AVP Business Banking Relationship Manager with Veritex Community Bank. Then we'll have a few slides on who is Trufund. Get to know Trufund. Understand what Trufund does for you. Then we'll have Budgeting, Bookkeeping, and Taxes presented by Julie Hartman, co-founder and certified proposal manager with B2G Victory. And finally, we'll have a brief access to capital talk from me on how to access capital. So with that being said, who is Trufund? Trufund is a financial services U.S. Treasury certified nonprofit community development financial institution established in 2005. We have our headquarters is located in New York City, and we have field offices in Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, and Georgia. So to date, we have lent well over $22 million in capital to over 125 small business owners. By doing that, we've helped to create over 500 jobs and retain over 1,000 jobs. A lot of our borrowers are, they have poor to fair credit, and approximately 68% of our borrowers were located within our investment area, as well as low to moderate income areas. We do lend to small businesses and nonprofits. We have loans ranging from $50,000 to $5 million. So with that being said, I'm going to pause for now, and I'm going to turn it over to Natalie so she can share and tell us a bit about Veritex Community Bank.
Welcome everyone to our workshop that we have today. Trufund, thank you so much for this opportunity. Like I said, my name is Natalie Castillo, business banker with Veritex Community Bank. I cover our Keenwood and Cleveland offices up north, but happy to connect with everyone that has questions, or if you just need advice, let me know. I'll be sharing my contact information as well with all of you. But who is Veritex Community Bank? Veritex Community Bank started in 2009. We have about 12 locations here locally in our Houston market, and we continue growing organically. But some information that I wanted to share with you today is, what should you look for in a business bank? It's important as business owners, or startup business owners, that you start building that relationship with your bank. Start, creating that relationship with your banker. The reason we say that is because your banker will be the advocate for your business. There will be that person that's going to connect you with different resources that banks have to offer you. The second thing that I always recommend my customers, or clients that I'm working with, to look for is someone that's working with the community. Make sure that the bank that you're looking for is involved with the community, is giving back to the community. And that's the one reason that I love Veritex Bank, is because we give out to our community. We work with different nonprofit organizations, and the bank itself always encourages employees to give back in any way that we can. We offer different services. And if you want more information, I could send that over to you. But we cover all the way from checking account, treasury services, online banking, working capital. We have mortgages. We have everything that a person would need when it comes to banking. Customer service is one of the most important things that you need as a business owner. And the reason why I say that is because you want to make sure that if you have any questions, in regards to your business accounts, that you have someone that you could call and ask those questions to. So if you have that relationship with a banker, you are most likely going to have their cell phone. So if you bank with me, you will have my cell phone number, right? So you will be provided the best customer service, off the roof, because you have that connection, you have that relationship already built and established with a banker. So it's important for you to keep in mind, building that relationship, making sure that they're providing you the customer service that you need as a business owner. The other thing that I also, encourage my business owners to have is, peers, friends, coworkers that you have with you. Ask for referrals from them. ask them, who are you currently banking with? Who can you connect me with that, because they're going to be able to give you feedback as to what has made them successful as a business owner. And like I mentioned earlier, the different services that we offer, there's different lines of business that we have here. We are a preferred SBA lender bank. So any questions that you have, we'll be more than happy to jump off on a one-on-one and share that information with you. What should you look for in a business bank account? So it's important whenever you're establishing a relationship with a business is understand the different business accounts that they offer the community. Why? Because some of them are going to require a minimum balance requirement. Some of them are going to have monthly service charge. Some of them are going to have limits of how many checks you could write out, how many debits you could, get. ATM withdrawals. Is the checking account earning any interest, or do they offer savings to the businesses that are earning interest? We here at Vertex offer an earnings credit account. So that's important for you to have if you are going to have, an account that's going to be operating at a highly level, sending out wires, ACH. We give you earning credits on the balance that you carry in your checking account. And that's something that one of our treasury management solution officers could have a conversation so that they could explain that to you as well. But it's important for you to look for all of these things before you commit to a bank, before you open an account, so that you can make sure that you have the best account that it's going to fit your business needs. Now, a question that we get asked a lot is, what documents do we need to open a business account? Every bank is going to be different. And for those that are on the line, if you have your cell phone with you and you want to take a picture of this, please feel free to, snip a picture of this, because these are documents that you as a business owner needs in order to open a business account. If you're a sole proprietor, doing business with a DBA, you're going to need your assumed name certificate. You're going to need your social security number, or sometimes you register your EIN number with that. If you are an LLC, a limited liability company, you're going to need your certificate of formation, operating agreement, your SS4, and of course that EIN number that corresponds to that LLC. If you're a corporation, you're going to need that certificate of formation, articles of incorporation, your minute meetings, and that SS4, and of course the EIN number as well. Now, if you have a partnership, you're going to need a partnership agreement, the SS4 and EIN number. So all accounts are going to be different, so you need to know exactly how you're going to register your business, how are you going to be doing business with the state of Texas, so that you know exactly what business documents you need prior to opening that relationship with a bank. Our treasury management services that we offer help our business clients have a smoother operation. Treasury management services, we offer remote deposit scanner. So that's a convenience for the business owner, because it's going to help you increase production. If you have ACH, we could help you with direct deposit, paying vendors quickly, and it saves you money, and it avoids you having to write out checks. We also have positive pay, which helps you mitigate fraud. There's a lot of fraud happening. I don't know if you heard, fraudsters are becoming more creative in the way that they're doing fraud. So positive pay helps you eliminate check fraud. We have lockbox. So if you're a company that's, receiving a lot of checks on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, lockbox will be a great feature for you to have as a business owner. Mobile deposit. It's convenient for you to have mobile deposit. You literally just grab your phone, take a picture of the check, and it's automatically sent to your bank account. And then, of course, merchant services is another feature that we have with treasury management that's going to help you increase sales. So if you are a business owner that's receiving payments via debit cards, credit cards, and you have that POS system, we offer that as well. And we could help you increase your sales and save money on other fees that could associate with other stuff that you have coming into that account. And then the one reason I love Vertex as well is because we give back to our community in different ways, but our women in business, we, welcome anyone who is, women in business that wants to learn more about different things. For example, we have monthly networking meetings monthly that you could attend for free. You don't have to bank with Vertex to join these meetings. We offer free women in business checking accounts with no monthly minimum balance. There's, up to 250 transactions a month, but would love to share this information with all of you. If any of you would like to get in our list of, the next events that we're going to be hosting throughout the year, please let me know. more than happy to put your email into that list so that you could, be aware of whenever we're having our next event. Sharonda was there with us on our last event. She was part of our panel. So thank you so much, Sharonda, for sharing all of your knowledge with all of these business owners that do come out to our Women in Business events. And then here is my contact information. Like I said, Natalie Castillo, business banker. You have my office number. My cell phone is going to be the best way for you to get a hold of me. My number is 832-876-9629. And then my email's there, and castillo@veritexbank.com. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll be sharing this information with you as well after the presentation. Thank you so much, Sharonda, and I'll give it back to you.
Well, this morning, we're going to talk about budgeting, bookkeeping, taxes, and small business finance. Whew, wow, that's and we're going to hit the high levels of each of these. And, Tiffany, if you have any questions, please ask. We really want this to be as interactive as possible. And our relationship with TrueFund goes all the way back to 2020. We've been doing webinars and seminars with them since then, and just really value the partnership and want to express our appreciation and gratitude for being a part of the TrueFund journey here in Texas. And, I really want to encourage everyone to always take advantage of opportunities like Natalie just talked about, that Veritex offers, and, the education and training that TrueFund offers, because I've been able to be a successful entrepreneur for over 20 years because of these programs. And I look back 20 years ago when, I had my big old laptop in my spare bedroom, and we didn't have all of these great, amazing resources for female entrepreneurs and small businesses, and access to capital from banks or even CDIFs. And so I'm a two-time founder and a certified women business owner. Both of my businesses have been certified women-owned businesses and certified small businesses, and that's been really critical to our growth. And a couple of specific programs that have been really instrumental in my professional growth as a woman entrepreneur, a leader, and a business owner is the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business. To grow, build your capacity, and maximize all of these great opportunities that women-owned small businesses, minority-owned businesses, and other marginalized groups have through government contracting. And I will put our information here in the chat shortly. And when Susan and I came together in 2020, we really wanted to make sure to meet entrepreneurs where they are. And we created the B2G Victory portal, which is an anytime access resource that you can go on your computer or on your phone and get answers. So we've got the session today, you've got the recording, but when you're working on that proposal, or you're working on your certification, or you're driving, say, from North Houston all the way to South Houston, and you want to listen to a video, all of that is there. Or if you have a specific question, you can go to the Q&A, because I assure you, if you've got a question, another entrepreneur had it as well. Or what are all of these crazy words in government contracting? So we have put together a list of certifying agencies. We have put together a list of frequently asked questions, over 100 videos, to give that all to each and every one of you. And we're going to give it to you free, because you are investing in yourself. So if you send an email to hello@b2gvictory.com with the subject line TrueFund, we're going to give you access to the B2G Victory portal for an entire year. And we've organized our content in whether you want it as a blog or videos. And so, for example, if you went to the portal and searched finance or financial, you'll see all of the different events that come up that will help you understand the finances and the financial aspect of your business, as well as the different podcasts that we've had, and FAQs, and all of the different blog posts that we've got that are related to the financial aspect of your business. And then obviously, if you have any questions about anything, reach out to Natalie and reach out to Sharonda. Being an entrepreneur sometimes can be a little overwhelming. And so as we cover topics and information today, maybe think about what is something that I can use in my business next week. We've got a few extra weeks left in this quarter, maybe this quarter, next quarter, and the end of the year. So set goals for yourself, set some stretch goals, as well as some immediate goals and immediate actions that can help you build your momentum. Because just like Natalie said, when you surround yourself with a community of people that are genuinely dedicated to you and your success, and you build that momentum and that energy, it's contagious. And we really want to help everybody be successful. So why does all of this matter? Why is Veritex committing themselves to the community as well as Trufund, and why this session today on bookkeeping, budgeting, and finance? Well, it all matters for many, many important reasons. One, for bankers, when you're getting access to capital, they're going to use all of this information, primarily your financials, and that list of information that Trufund requires and Veritex requires to determine your ability to repay its debt and determine the risk management, right? So how much capital can you have, and how are you going to communicate how you're going to use it, right? So that's bankers. But then as a business owner, I can't stress enough the importance of knowing your numbers, understanding those numbers, and if you don't understand them, having resources, whether that's friends, entrepreneurs, or going, to those monthly meetings and saying, hey, are you facing this problem too? And I don't understand, what this means, or I don't understand how to read a cash flow statement. Don't be afraid to ask, because there are so many people who want to help you as a business owner understand what the numbers are telling you and what decisions you need to make now based on those action items. So as a business owner, when you're doing your budgeting, your bookkeeping, and your financing, everything falls into three big business activities, whether it's operating, investing, or financing. And so when I am looking at my numbers, I need to make decisions on questions that I have for the growth of my company and major decisions. So expansion, is this right now the time to expand to get a loan? Well, I'm going to go to my financials and look at my financials that address my financing business activities to know whether I'm going to get a loan or not, or if this makes sense. A revenue question: which employee is generating the most revenue? Well, that is a operating business decision. So I'm going to go to my profit and loss statement to look at that, right? So here's just a few other questions and major decisions and the types of categories that they would fall into. So profitability, which product or service is the most profitable? Well, once again, that's an operating decision. Where do I go in my bookkeeping software? Which report do I pull to find out these major decisions regarding what service or product is the most profitable? Because you want to keep doing the things that are making you money and stop doing the things that aren't, right? At some point, you just have to stop doing it. And then investing decisions, right? Can I purchase a new piece of equipment? Can I just outright purchase it, or do I need to finance it? So that's an investing decision that you would need to go to your statement of cash flow to look at. So with that and these decisions and questions, please ask if you have a question or chime in. Sharonda and Natalie, don't be afraid to chime in or ask questions as we go. I want to make sure that everybody gets the most out of our time together. So we're going to just take it from the top. The first topic for this morning is budgeting. We're going to break budgeting into two sections, just a really high level of budgeting overview. And then we're going to get into budgeting details. I know so many small businesses that get all excited and then they do a budget and then they forget about it. Budgeting is an action verb. It is something that you do and you look at and you modify. It's not great. I did a budget. It's sitting on my Google Drive. Take a bow. Look at me. No, it is a constant thing. And when you go to access capital, they're going to ask you, where are you on budget? How did you predict your budget? How are you managing your budget? And the one thing you never want to say is, I don't have a budget. Start somewhere, even if it's just a spreadsheet. So how do you budget? How do you plan? Where do you even start? Right? And I love this quote. Planning or budgeting is bringing the future into the present so you can do something about it now. Do something about it now. If it's saved on your Google Drive and you're not reviewing it or looking at it, you can't do anything about it now. And it does require energy. And don't be intimidated. Once again, get a budget buddy. And maybe, each week, you and her or you and him or you guys come together and say, okay, I'm going to help you along with your budget. I want to pause here and talk about the difference between budgeting and forecasting. They are both wonderful financial tools that businesses need to have, but a lot of entrepreneurs get them commingled. And so we're going to just kind of talk about the difference of each one of them, and then get into the budget details. So a financial budget is a statement of expected expenses and revenues over a financial period. Most typically, you would do a budget for a year, right? You've got your yearly budget, but then you're going to break it down into your quarters and break it down into your months. I do know some business owners that have daily budgets, but that, depends on your business, the products and services that you offer, and how sophisticated you are. So don't feel like you have to do that all from the beginning. One of the differences between a budget and forecasting is budgets are very tactical. I'm in the weeds, right? It's what is the firm's management plan? What do we want to achieve? What are our goals during this time, right? What revenue do we want to bring in, and how do we want to manage expenses? Once again, a budget covers a shorter period, typically a single financial year. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I think July felt like an entire financial year. I am so glad today is the last day of July. We are ready to put that to bed. All righty. Financial budgets are a little bit more static. Once they're prepared, we've got it. So in a couple of months, we are going to start working on our 2025 budget. Every month we look at our 2024. So they're static in that aspect. But I don't want anyone to think that they're not adaptable and agile. Obviously, and I'm going to share with you, our July budget we had budgeted our July to be the best month ever in 2024. Well, there was a few things that happened in July that didn't make that a reality, between the hurricane, vacations, family things, and a whole slew of other things. Our July isn't the best month ever. And so we are going to be modifying our budget for the next subsequent months for this fiscal year. So it is static, but it is agile. And also, once again, they're tactical tools to handle operations. So remember, I talked about those 3 business activities, financing, operating, and this is an operations tool. And budgets, when you compare your actual versus budget, that's a variance, okay? I'm going to just keep it really high level for financial forecasting. Involves 3 steps. So when you hear performas or financial forecast, maybe when you're listening, to the Financial Times or CNN or wherever you get your financial news, that's what they're talking about, a projection. And you're looking at trends and figures in that instance. And so typically a forecast might be a 3 or a 5-year forecast, but it's business movements, where we're headed, right? So budget is now forecast is obviously in the future, long term, spanning over several years. And so why do I say that is you actually need both. Your forecast is your roadmap and your plan. Your budget sets your limits. It helps keep you in line with your forecast. So where am I going long-term, big picture? Where am I now? What do I need to do? How do I need to adjust? And all of that. So 2 new words that might be in your vocabulary is forecast and budget, and high level of those differences. Budgeting details. Let's talk about the details of a budget. Where do I even start with your budget? Well, one thing that I always encourage business owners to do is to look into things in terms of months, right? How much does it cost me to keep my doors open every month? Some people call this your nut. Some people call this your net burn. So look at your total monthly sales or your total monthly revenue and your expenses, right? That's your net burn. And review a couple of months to get the average. So I like to look at it for at least 6 months. I'll look at it each individual month to see maybe are there monthly trends or seasonal trends. And then I'll do a quarterly average as well as a 6-month average and look at my net burn. So then I'm going to look at my net burn, and then I'm going to look at my cash balance, and I'm going to divide it by my burn rate. And that's my implied runway. So how much cash do I have in the bank right now, right? What is my cash balance? And then what is my burn rate? And that's going to tell me my runway. And when you meet with either investors or Veritex or Trufund, they're going to look and they're going to do this calculation. And so when you are working on your budget, and when you're looking to prepare yourself for funding, when you already have done these calculations, you're able to have a much better conversation with them because you already know these answers. So if I look at my cash balance, money in the bank divided by my burn rate, that's my runway. That's how many more months I have in the bank that I can stay open. And that's a really, really important number that every entrepreneur should know when you're working on your budget, as well as when you're operating your day-to-day. Budget prep. Where do we even start? How do we even prepare for this? It's 6 steps and it is iterative. And so once again, you're not going to just do the budget, take a vow and say, yep, it's up on my Google Drive. I'm real proud of myself. It is iterative, and let's just jump on it on the first one. What are my major objectives? Well, how much staff do I need? Review your staff, review your job descriptions, and maybe you don't have job descriptions, but at least you have tasks that each one of your staff or team members is doing, and also consider outside contractors. Any equipment, we talked about that. Do I need big yellow pieces of equipment? Maybe that's in corporate, right? Am I at a point in my business where I'm going to go rent or purchase an office, or am I going to just stay at home and be a home-based business? Those are decisions that tie to your objectives. Gather other data, gather your business plan, gather your growth plan, if you call it that, and then start getting numbers. And this is something as a part of the budget, as a business owner, you can delegate, right? So ask people to go find numbers for you so that you can after they're aggregated, then you're doing the analysis of them. Look at your current customers. What service offerings are you doing with those customers that maybe they don't know about? I bet you half of your customers don't know everything that you do. And if you called them up and thanked them for everything that in the business that they have been doing with you, and you said, did you also know that we can help you with X, Y, and Z? And can I send you over some pricing on that? You'd be surprised on the number of opportunities that'll increase and how easy it is to sell to an existing customer versus beating down the door to try to find a new one. All righty. So now I've got all of this information. I've defined my objectives that might come from my business plan or my strategy. And now I've got some costs. And I'm going to now put them either in a spreadsheet or a Google sheet or Excel, or maybe directly into QuickBooks, whatever your bookkeeping software is. And we're going to talk a little bit about bookkeeping software and what to look for a little bit later this morning. So we've got it all together. Okay, remember I said budgeting is an action verb. Now we have to review it. Do these numbers actually make sense? And what numbers do I have zero control over? We just changed medical insurance companies and our insurance increased 18%, 18% increase on our medical insurance. I have no control over that expense. So then once I know that and I've reviewed it, what other expenses do I need to cut or modify? All righty. And then look at your pricing. Look at your pricing and see if I increased my rates 2% or 5%, or maybe even just $5, how much more revenue could I bring in? And then do a sensitivity test. Would I lose a customer if I increased each one of my widgets $5? Would I lose a customer if I increased my hourly rate $10? And do that math and just see. So do the numbers make sense? How can I cut back on expenses? Maybe I need to talk to my vendors. And can I get 45 days to pay? Or if I purchase more, can I get a cost per unit less? Those types of questions ask yourself. And those are all operating activities. So now every month that I've done my budget, I'm going to look at it budget versus actual. Was that realistic? Like I just gave you that example for our July. Last November, when we sat down and we did our budget, then we finalized it in October. July 2024 was going to be the best month on record for B2G Victory. Well, we had a few hiccups, and that's okay, just as long as I know the why, how I'm going to fix it, and moving forward. So revise as needed. I got a little bit ahead of myself. I got a little excited, but revise as needed. Do I need new employees? Do I need a new revenue stream? Do I have to change vendors, for example? So that's 6. And so to kind of bring all of those 6 parts for your budget preparation all together, what would that look like for revenue? So here's an example of a $1 million company. And this may or may not be realistic for some of you, depending on where you are. If I have a goal to have a $1 million company, how do I make that achievable? Right? So we talked about our budget as a yearly budget for $1 million. Okay, well, there's 12 months in the year. So let's do some simple math. And that's $83,000 a month. Can I bring in $83,000 a month? All right, well, we're going to divide 83,000 by 50, not 52, because we've got to recharge as entrepreneurs. We have got to take a break for time off, vacations, and to work on the overall strategy of the business. So that's why I divided it by 52. Also, you'll note that daily, I divided it by 4 days a week. On Fridays, I encourage each entrepreneur, and I learned this when I went through the Goldman Sachs program, is to focus on your company. Meeting with clients, you are jamming, you're actually doing products or services. If you pull out on Friday and wear your CEO hat and focus on your company, I call those financial Fridays, right? where I'm looking at my numbers, I'm in my bookkeeping, I'm talking to my banker, I'm calling Natalie on her cell phone. That's a banking relationship. So if I want to kind of take this all full circle, if I want $1 million company, here is a exercise to help you see if that is and isn't achievable. So if I need to bring in $5,000 a day, how many widgets, how many hours, all of that. So now you can see if that's digestible, or what other staff do I need? Do I need to hire a business development person? Or maybe, you know what? It's okay if $1 million is not realistic. Maybe one of these action items is for each of you to think about what your revenue goal is for 2025. What I want you to take away from this is set your yearly, divide it by 12 months, divide it by 50 weeks, then divide it by 4. There's a really disappointing stat that hasn't changed much. In less than 2% of all women-owned businesses ever reach $1 million in revenue. My challenge to us as women business owners is to change that statistic. And how do we work together to help each other achieve that goal? And not only hitting that revenue, but having a life, building generational wealth, contributing to our communities to help each other do that. So we know our revenue, we talked about that. And so our budget has 2 sides, the income, which we talked about, and then expenses. And if it's not reasonable to sit down and maybe next Friday or in a month Friday to do your whole budget, then maybe just start with 1 hour a week. I'm just going to start looking at it, baby steps. So start looking at fixed expenses first. Group insurance, I'm going to use that as an example. Or if you don't already have it, budget for payroll for you as the owner of the business. You are the CEO of a corporation. And yes, you also own that corporation. And you know what? You deserve to be compensated. You wouldn't go work for any corporation for free. Don't work for yourself for free. So make sure, if you are not budgeting for payroll for yourself right now, budget in the future. So how much is that going to be? And make sure to include that salary for the owners. We're going to circle back on some of that salary payroll stuff on taxes. But here's some examples. So group insurance, if I have 10 employees, the business is going to pay 50%. That's $250 per employee. That's $2,500 per month times 12. So that's $30,000 per year. So do those fixed expenses first. What is your insurance? What are those other types of expenses that are easy ones, right? That you know you're going to have to pay. Do those first, once again, building that momentum. And ask around, look for trends. How much does somebody else pay for a co-working space? Who do you use for your office supplies or your printing? Think through those numbers, because when you go to get access to capital, you're going to need to have my sources and your uses. Your uses are those expenses. So where did I get those expenses? Well, I got those when I was working on my budget. Well, how did you come up with that number? So make sure to connect all of the dots. All righty, here it is in QuickBooks. I do not work for QuickBooks, but this is one of the most popular bookkeeping softwares out there. And you can go and set up a budget. You can even upload an Excel file, or if you're currently using QuickBooks, it can do a budget for you right there. And it can create a budget from scratch, or it can create a budget for you from the previous year. So that might be a great starting point. Let's look and see what previous year was and see from there how to adjust, so you don't have to start all the way from scratch. And so this is an example of a budget in QuickBooks. So it takes your P&L categories, which is your profit and loss, and it breaks it down annually as well as by month. So if you said take it from last year, it's going to plug in your last year's numbers, and then you can adjust from there accordingly. So maybe there's seasonal businesses. If you are doing business with school districts K through 12, well, we're about to come into our new fiscal year, right? So maybe August is going to be a very big revenue month for you. Maybe you're in retail in December, right? So you can put in your annual amounts and then allocate them accordingly as well. So I wanted to make sure to show real examples. Here it is in Excel or Google Sheets or Smart Sheets, whatever software you use, but same type of thing. You're going to look at it, you're going to make evaluations, and you're going to tweak it, right? And I think also most importantly is this comments. So I worked on like I said, Susan and I worked on our budget last November, then we finalized it in December. We pulled up that old budget and we're like, okay, what were those comments? How did we make that assumption? And so it's really important because sometimes I even have problems remembering what I did last week, much less last November. So leave, Sharonda's like, yep, me too. Leave notes for yourself to go back. Use your brain cells for strategy, not memory. And then once you've got it in there, remember I said reviewing, right? Don't sweat the small stuff, but you need to review your budget and look at it in context. And most of the bookkeeping softwares have something out there for you to use. And so here's an example of your budget versus actual. So it's got your actual numbers, then the budget, your dollar amount over, as well as the percentage of budget. And that's really important to know as well as you're looking at trends. So income, we exceeded the budget by $4,000, which was 101%. Our expenses were under budget by 18,000. So that's good. We were really good at tightening our belt at 93%. Then if I come here, if I look all the way down to my net income, we did great on income and we did good on expenses, but we were budgeted for $30,000 profit. We only hit $2,000 net income. So overall, we were $28,000 under our net profit. So it's really important to look all the way down in your budget and see how everything all shakes out, and you don't just get intrigued by your revenue. And these are just more expenses, and I'm just going down here. Any questions on budgeting overview or budgeting detail or any other points, Natalie or Sharonda, that you want me to re-emphasize?
Thank you, Julie. And everyone, Julie just gave a great example of budgeting for your business. And you can even, take that and apply it to, budgeting for your household, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Julie, would you say once you create your budget, and of course, it's going to depend on each individual's businesses, on what your fiscal year is, are you doing January through December, or, if you have a different fiscal year start. But Julie, would you say that once you create your budget, you should look at it weekly or monthly to check to see what your actuals and variances are?
I recommend starting monthly, at least monthly. And then, it really depends on how much, you move. I call it moving money, right? How are you invoicing and how are you receiving your expenses? For us, we invoice weekly, but we look at our budget monthly. So I think it really depends on the type of business that you have. How much money are you moving? I mean, if you're moving lots of money and having lots of expenses, then I would look at it weekly. But if monthly is a little bit more reasonable. But what you don't want to do is wait till the end of the year, because then I'm just reading a history book, right? I'm like, oh yeah, well, wow, last January that was horrible, right? Well, that was 12 months ago. You can't do anything about it now. And that's why I love really stressing that budgeting is an action verb that you need to do monthly so you can adapt. And when you need to call your banker and say, hey, Either A, we have rocked our budget like crazy. I need some more capital so I can continue to grow. Or, hey, I've noticed this trend in our budget. We projected to do this in revenue. That service line or that product, the market just didn't take, right? You got to try some things. But what we are going to do is we are going to do an aggressive campaign for this other service line to make up for it. And those are the answers and the conversations that are so important that you have with yourself as an entrepreneur, and whoever is helping you finance your business. So you don't have any surprises. They don't have any surprises, and you're working together because they also might have some great ideas or be able to introduce you to someone else.
Hey, so you mentioned, talking about budgeting. What are some platforms, Julie, that you would recommend business owners to utilize for budgeting? I know there's different things, different avenues, different methods that we all use, right? But what are some of the things that you think would be beneficial for them to start budgeting and just, start utilizing on a day-to-day basis?
For expenses, I would start with the consumer price index, right? What is the CPI? You hear about the news of inflation and stuff. So, I would look at, CPI index, so is 3% enough for expenses? Or another area is industry, right? Are you a member of any industry organizations that you can get some trends from as well? We're members of the National Association of Minority Contractors. We're also members of the Houston Apartment Association. So if I'm going to put on my construction company hat, I mean, construction materials are still crazy, right? So how do I do my estimating and my pricing for that? Well, I could go to NAMAC, and NAMAC could help me with that. IBIS is also a great industry place to go where you can look at trends for NOI and profitability, as well as other really important ratios. And HCC has a great entrepreneurship department that you can get access to IBIS for free, as well as when you go through other programs. And then you can also chat, with other people as you're out and about and just ask, right? The Women's Business Center here has great resources as well.
I think the biggest key for the success of any business owner, and for those that are on our call, it's important, and I encourage and motivate each of you to ask, asking one another. Don't be afraid to ask a question, because, you might be a person that, is wondering what this is, but that person next to you is probably also having that same, thought or same question. So it's important to educate yourself with as much knowledge as you can. Those are the reasons we're here, Trufund, Veritex Bank, Julie. There's different organizations within our community that we could also connect you with. If we don't have the resources, if we don't have the answer for you, there's other people that we work with that we could connect you that will help you in that area that you're needing some advice on. So don't be hesitant to ask, or, unmute yourself. That's the reason for these calls, so that you could ask and we could share information with you.
Yep. And when we were building the portal, we went through 3 years of seminars and webinars of questions that people asked and put them in the portal. So, I mean, there's questions of what's a NAICS code? You can even look up your NAICS code and find information on your NAICS code and different products and services on that. And how do I budget for certifications? Which agencies charge and don't charge for certifications? So we've got over 300 questions in that FAQ. Just put in a word and either a glossary will come up or a frequently asked question with the answer and the link to where you can go to find extra help.
Fantastic. Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is so important with your business, and how you get that information in a bookkeeping platform, and then what you get out of it, because garbage in is garbage out. If you are not putting your invoices and your expenses and categorizing all of that in some bookkeeping software, you're not going to be able to get those reports that the bankers need to get you access to capital. And so there's a great statistic here from the SBA, and it mirrors the question that Sharonda asked. How often should you look at your budget? I consider our budget as a part of our Financial Fridays when I look at our budget and our financial statements. And the success rate of businesses that produce, that's one part of it, review, second part of it. The third is analyze. And that means sitting down, taking time and looking at these numbers. Not while you're watching Amazing Race or The Bachelor or something else. You've got to focus and block time with yourself. So if you look at it annually, and most of the time, this isn't even people looking at their financials. This is people looking at their taxes after their CPA is given to them. Your taxes are not your financials. Your taxes are your taxes. And I can see Natalie giggling and her expression as well. So when you look at your financials annually, your success rate is 25 to 35. When you look at them monthly, so that's your Financial Fridays, maybe at the end of each month, 75 to 80% success rate. And if you look at them weekly, this is your Financial Fridays, looking at your financials weekly, 95% success rate. Because I know my numbers, I know how I got my numbers, and most importantly, I can now make decisions based on those numbers. And when you do that, you are a much better CEO of your corporation. So why do you need your financials right now? Why do I need a bookkeeping software to produce these financials? Well, and I've said it a lot, business loan or access to capital. And access to capital can come in many, many different forms, whether that's business assistance loans right now from Beryl. There are lots of opportunities for businesses to get relief from the hurricane, but you're not going to get the help and the access to capital if you don't have your financials. If you don't have a bookkeeping software, you can't produce your financials. Also, if you don't have a line of credit, every business must have a line of credit. If you don't, put that as an action item to reach out to Sharonda and Natalie for that. If you want to refi a house, or maybe you're buying a house, you're going to need your financials for that. How do I get those financials? From my bookkeeping software. Certifications and recertifications, you're going to need your financials for. If that's something that you're interested in growing your business in the government contracting space or through corporations, supplier diversity departments, you are going to need your financials at that. Subcontractor packages, so many opportunities, not only here in Houston, but nationwide to be a subcontractor. MD Anderson is about to start a billion with a big old B billion-dollar project that they have subcontractor goals on. We've heard a lot about the LBJ hospital that they need subcontractor opportunities for, as well as many, many other projects, government projects, whether that is K through 12 with your school district, with your city, with your county, with the state of Texas, you're going to need them. So in order to produce your financials and your numbers, you need a software package, a bookkeeping package, right? Here are the popular ones out here. Like I said, I do not get a kickback from any of these. I'm just showing you a bunch of different options. We are not endorsing any of these products, but I just need to show you examples. So you need a bookkeeping product. When you are looking at one, and whether maybe you're, you know what, go ahead and put in the chat which bookkeeping products y'all use. If you have some that you're currently using, or if you don't have one, that's okay too. So go ahead and just put that in the chat, which bookkeeping product you do use. And maybe one of your action items. We've got somebody who's using QuickBooks and transitioning to a Jira, correct? So when you're transitioning or looking at a new product, what are some top considerations? Well, I want to look at the number of users because all of these considerations impact the price. That price impacts your expenses on your P&L. ZipBooks. Oh, I've never heard of ZipBooks. Experimenting with it because it's much less than what's listed. And then Tiffany, she tried FreshBooks and she didn't like it, right? And so it all depends. And so here are some other factors. The number of users, right, is a factor. Report types. Some products, well, you'll have to pay extra for specific reports. Mobile features. If your business is mobile, what are some mobile features that are important to you? Time and expense tracking for job profitability and client profitability, as well as just the overall software budget. How do I pay? Is it a monthly fee? Is it a yearly fee? Those types of things. We've got 5 more considerations to go over. E-commerce, right? And when you're looking at e-commerce, what is the credit card charge, right? Because those 2%, 3% transaction fees can quickly, I'm gonna say it one more time, quickly add up and eat into your profit margin. Shipping, right? Are you in the e-commerce? How important is having that shipping simplified for you? If you're doing international work, currency conversions, those types of things. Inventory. I am so glad that we don't have inventory, but some of you may. How does that bookkeeping software handle inventory? And then industry specific. There are some bookkeeping software that are industry specific, maybe for real estate, maybe for construction or for creative agencies. There are some things for that. So what I did is I went through and preparing for this session, looked at a couple different products, bookkeeping softwares, and then just looked at what they offer. So you can see here how I came up with those top 10. You know, multiple users. Can I manage cash flow? Can I track mileage? Can I run reports? So make sure to look at that and see what's important to you, as well as how are you incurring that expense? Is that monthly or yearly? And this is just keeping going down on that screen capture of the QuickBooks website on all of the different things that you can consider. We use QuickBooks. I use the QuickBooks mobile app and I love it. And two of the reasons why I love it, and this might be something that you look at when you're looking at your other bookkeeping software, is the receipt snap. I'm able to do that when I'm out and about, and that goes straight into QuickBooks, as well as the mileage, because we were paying for Mileage IQ and QuickBooks. And so I was actually paying extra for an expense for the first year that we didn't need to, because QuickBooks does mileage in it. And so you can go into settings and it will track your mileage. So now Susan and I are tracking our mileage in QuickBooks, one platform, all there. And we were able to cut those expenses because we don't have Mileage IQ anymore. When you're looking at your bookkeeping software, look at how it can give you quick information about your business, right? We talked about the success rate of businesses who you're looking at your numbers yearly, monthly, and weekly. Well, a lot of platforms, bookkeeping softwares, give you these little dashboards or snippets of information that maybe you can't dedicate your Fridays quite yet. And so start slow. So maybe each Friday, I'm going to just start looking at my dashboards or my snapshots. And I'm going to show you a couple of different examples of how these look, not only in some mobile views, but as well as in some desktop views. And just start looking at your numbers. It can be a little intimidating, but the more you do it, the more you'll understand it. Here is the example screenshots from QuickBooks Mobile. So as soon as I go into QuickBooks Mobile on this sample company, I can see how my profit my revenue and my expenses are trending each month, and my net profitability currently. And this is a big important thing. It says based on 69% of the transactions. Back to garbage in, garbage out. If I am not staying on top of my bookkeeping or having somebody help me, whether that's a subcontractor or contracting it out or a part-time employee or whatever those numbers are, if your transactions aren't categorized, then those numbers aren't accurate and you're wasting your time. So make sure that you are staying on top of your categorized transactions. Then I'm just going to kind of move down here, and it provides you some other very helpful information that allows you once again to make investing and operating activities. So my income was down 28% from May. Okay, well, why? Right. So I asked myself why. And my expenses were down 28% compared to the first 2 months of May to the first 2 months of June. Well, I know my expenses were down because I haven't had a payroll yet, right? My income is down. Do I have a bunch of quotes that are out that need to get signed? Do I need to go do some more networking opportunities? Those types of things. So these dashboards and snapshots can also help you get a pulse of what's going on in your business. So that's that screenshot. It's come down to expenses. So this is, like I said, just on the mobile view. And I'm looking at expenses, and it even, once again, tells me that 93% of my expenses are categorized per the month, and it tells me what my highest expenses are, which is really good. And so I'm able to keep a pulse on that as well in my bookkeeping software. I love this business barometer here because it's telling me how many average days to pay, right? Because I know two people that are on this call that are in financing, and those are Natalie and Sharonda. The majority of us are not in financing companies. We are actually doing a product. So the longer it takes people to pay you, the longer it's taking you to get your cash flow in. And you want to stay on top of that as much as you can. So here's the average days to get paid. And it's actually telling you how they did that formula, right? How did they calculate it? And it was 19 days fewer than May. So we're doing something really good. Here's that monthly average cash burn rate that I talked about earlier in the presentation. Some bookkeeping softwares will calculate this for you. If you don't have a bookkeeping software that calculates it, that's okay, because you were here today and now you know how to calculate it for yourself. And money in. We talked about, is this the right time to expand? Is this the right time to buy that equipment? So how much money do I have forecasted that is due this month? So $13,000 have been paid. I have an additional, in this landscaping example, an additional $60,000 worth of invoices that I'm expected to get paid on. But let's look down here. Oops, let me go back here for a minute. I have 27 invoices overdue that are $48,000. To me, that tells me somebody needs to get on the old school horn or send in some emails and figuring out A, why those are overdue, and B, when are those going to get paid? All righty, just a few other things here regarding cash flow. In this snapshot, dashboard, quickie look, whatever you want to call it. Here's money out, right? Because we always want to stay not only on top of our income, but on top of our expenses as well. So this is money out. I have some bills. Craig's landscaping service has some bills that are overdue. So you don't want to upset your vendors, right? So your bookkeeping software is helping you keep track of that. And then how many bills are open. So we need to make sure to be paying our bills in a timely fashion. So our dashboard, right? So this is a desktop example of a bookkeeping product and how similar types of things that we just looked at are represented on a desktop dashboard. Very similar things, just in a little bit of a different way. And like I said, once you find your bookkeeping software, and thank you for letting me know which ones y'all are using and maybe, that you don't like or like, but you're not going to know if it's the best thing for you until you just start using it and looking at it. So here we've got our invoices, we've got our expenses, how much money's in our bank account, our profit and loss, and then there's our sales. So something wonderful happened in May in Craig's landscaping company. And here it is as well. I've got all your bank accounts, your invoices, if you're using time, of course, some sales promotion stuff that you can have go away, but here's your expenses as well. And you can customize these. Here's some other examples. This is a manufacturing company example. So same type of content, just displayed a little bit differently. And so I'm showing revenue and expenses and my NOI per month, right? So my net income, my total expenses, my total income, unpaid invoices, overdue and paid expenses, and a few other things, right? And if you have your information from previous year, you can use that as well. If you don't, maybe it might be worth the time and energy to put it in, maybe not, but you can upload that as well. So to kind of wrap up the types of information that you want to get from your bookkeeping software and the types of considerations, and ask around. And I think what's most important is whoever is helping you with your bookkeeping, whether that's your CPA, an outsourced bookkeeper, or you know what, it might be me, myself, and I, make sure that you have a resource to go and ask questions for and about it.
Agreed. Thank you, Julie.
Our next section of today's taxes. I am not a CPA. My best friend is a CPA, but I am not a CPA. And what I want to talk about in taxes and the takeaway here is I always see this, and like I said, I've been an entrepreneur for 23 years now. Time and time again, I see so many entrepreneurs that are so excited when they go and they file their taxes and they're like, yay, I made a profit. And then their CPA, or maybe if you're doing your taxes by yourself, now you have to pay taxes on that profit. And so many businesses don't budget or forecast their taxes. So you need to make sure that when you're doing your budget, that you are including your taxes that need to be paid. It is like this great deflating womp feeling when your bank account goes from here to here because you didn't think about taxes. And I know some business owners that have a separate savings account that's called their taxes account, and they take money, and each month either do a swipe. When I was 27 and I first started my own business back in 2000, I had two deposit slips, and I had a deposit slip that went into my operating account, and I had a deposit slip that went into my savings account. And I just got into that habit of 30% of every check that I got from a client, 70% went into my operating account, 30% went in the taxes account. So I saw it, but I didn't see it, so I wasn't tempted to use it. So figure out what system works for you. But the takeaway is you have to pay taxes. It is a good thing when a business pays taxes because that means you're profitable. And I want to go over just a few examples of some taxes and when a business would pay them. So when you're working on your budget and you're looking at your financials, when those sweeps might come out of your account. And like I said, I'm not a CPA, but I want to make sure that you are aware of these taxes and that you are budgeting for them. So obviously the big one is your income taxes, right? And so businesses as well as people have to pay income taxes, right? If you have payroll, right? As an employer, you are also responsible for payroll taxes. I time and time again, I'll run into a business that they paid their employees, but they didn't pay the employee taxes. So there's employer and employee taxes that need to be paid. So an example of those are FUTA, FICA, and SUTA, which is self-employment tax. So you might see those or be familiar with those. If you're not, you can follow up with me or Natalie or Sharonda. Sales tax, depending on what you do, depends on whether you need to pay sales tax. And you need to go to the state comptroller's website and put in what you do to figure that out. And then depending on how much revenue that you generate depends on how often you pay the sales tax. Maybe it's quarterly or monthly. So that's a sales tax. This one causes a lot of confusion, and it's called a franchise tax. But when most people think franchise, they're like, well, I don't own a McDonald's or I don't own a Subway. It's not specifically on franchises. So about a dozen states require franchise tax, and you don't pay franchise tax until you hit a certain revenue threshold. So for example, businesses in the state of Texas, if you're under, I think it's, don't quote me on this, it's either it just increased to 2 million or it's $1 million and it's going to increase next year. Like I said, I'm not a CPA, but what I do know is if you are under $1 million for last year, you do not have to pay franchise tax. That's $1 million worth of revenue. Now, you still have to file it, but you do not have to pay it. So it's really important when you're meeting with your CPA and you're talking about taxes that your CPA and your bookkeeper are aware of the taxes that you need to pay, what is the rate, and when they need to be filed. And so that's what I've got here, kind of some examples. This is not an inclusive list. These are just examples of agencies, the different types of taxes, and when you would pay them. SUTA, which is that state unemployment tax that you need to pay when you pay payroll. And then excise tax, and excise tax is on certain states and federal, depending on what you do, and that's yearly. Property taxes. Property taxes, businesses need to pay property taxes, just like each of us pay our property taxes if you own a house, right? To the city. So businesses that own buildings, land, or other real property may be taxed at the state and local levels. So you need to look at what type of real property that you have. And I'm not talking about laptops or monitors. I'm talking about actual property. And when you need to file those taxes and whether you need to pay it to the city that you're in, maybe it's the city of Houston or the state of the state of Texas, and licensing tax. And that depends. You can maybe pay a licensing tax on the state level, the local, or the federal level, and depends on what your business is and then how you pay it. So for example, dry cleaning companies need to pay licensing taxes, restaurants, retail, vending machines, those types of activities are commonly regulated, and you're going to need to pay a license tax on that. Make sure that you are budgeting for taxes and make sure that you are paying all of the proper taxes that you need to. When you're going to do work for government agencies or even getting your certification, some certifications and some agencies will ask you to notarize a form that says that you are current on all of your taxes. So make sure that you know which taxes you need to pay, when you need to pay them, and that you've paid them all. Wrapping up is small business finance and your financials. I've used this word quite a bit, financials, and there are 3 reports that are commonly referred to as your company's financials. And I'm going to revisit this slide one more time because it is so important. If you get pardon me, nothing else from our time together. It is the success rate of businesses that produce action verb, review, another action verb, analyze, another action verb, your financial report. Annually is only 25 to 35%, monthly 75 to 80, weekly 95%. So you'll know what your numbers are. When you look at your financials, revenue is vanity, right? Everybody gets so excited of, I've got so much money in revenue. I'm invoicing all of that. Profit is sanity, right? And I equate profit with my pillow and how much good quality sleep am I going to get at night? Because if my business isn't profitable, I'm not going to get much sleep. Cash is king. Cash is cash money's dollars in your bank account, right? So revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is king. So the three financial statements, the three reports that make up your financial statements are the balance sheet, your profit and loss, or your income statement, and your statement of cash flow. Every bookkeeping software should be able to produce these. If it doesn't, don't choose it, right? Those are the three reports that you are going to need to go get access to capital, that you are going to need to do government contracting, that you are going to need when you go get your certifications. And as a business owner, when you go to get a mortgage or if you go and get a car, because you are self-employed, they might also ask for this information as well. So we're going to jump in to how these reports all work together, because they are three very different reports. They tell three very different stories, but they all work together. So our balance sheet tells us our assets, our liabilities, and our net worth. Income statement, or P&L, is the net income of your company over a standard period of time. Cash flow is exactly what it says, the ins, and remember, the outs of your business's cash. Cash is king. So when I'm looking at these reports weekly or even monthly, I'm able to foresee financial problems before they happen. I'm able to see that pulse, right? And when we were looking at those dashboards and those snapshots, it literally took chunks from each one of these reports, right? Spotting opportunities for growth. And when you have access to capital, your lenders might ask you to produce these reports. Maybe they are asking you to produce them monthly or quarterly, but definitely yearly, and you're going to have a conversation about them. So it's important to understand what those three reports are, being able to pull them, and being able to have a conversation about them. First thing is the balance sheet is a snapshot of where you are today, right? You're able to change the date range of a balance sheet, but most of it is from like January. If I pulled our balance sheet right now, it would be January to the end of July, right? I can change the dates and, pull last year's balance sheet or Q1's balance sheet, but it is in a specific time frame. Shows what a company owns, which is an asset. It shows how much the company owes, which are my liabilities, and how much the shareholders have invested, right? So that's my equity. So assets, bank accounts receivable is considered an asset because we are going to assume that you have good customers and good clients and they're going to pay you. Inventory is considered an asset because you can use that to put down for collateral, as well as fixed assets, big, I always say big yellow pieces of equipment, or maybe your company car. Liabilities, this is what I owe, right? And these are short-term and long-term liabilities. So accounts payable, right? And when we saw that snapshot, it says, who do I owe bills to? And maybe it's utilities. I want you to look right there, and it's small. I wish it was a little bit bigger. Liabilities, taxes. Taxes are a liability. Until you pay them, it is a liability on your balance sheet. So maybe that's payroll taxes or what have you. And your loans are considered a liability. So when I take my liabilities and my shareholder equity, that all equals my assets. So can I cover my liabilities? I have positive shareholder equity. If I can't cover my liabilities, that is a negative shareholder equity. And so you want to be aware of that. So let's look at our balance sheet. We're going to just jump right on in. Our balance sheet is organized by our assets on how quickly can we access that cash. Cash is king. So if I needed quick cash, I could go to my checking or savings account, and there's $12,000 in this engineering company's checking account. Accounts receivable, well, that is an asset. Remember, we talked about that, but I'm waiting for people to pay me. And then other current assets. So those all come together, and those are my assets. Then our liabilities, right? How much do I owe? Accounts payable, who do I owe? Maybe I've got some credit cards, right? And maybe I've got some short-term debts, maybe some salaries. So if I hit payroll on Tuesday, but that payroll money hasn't come out of my checking account, then that's considered a liability because I need to pay that on Friday. And then long-term liabilities could be loans, right? And it's called a balance sheet. Here's a clue, because it has to balance, right? So my total assets and my total liabilities plus equity must balance those two numbers. And so I've got $3,000 in equity. So how did these work together? And I'm just going to point out just a few things on the balance sheet that tie to other areas and other reports in your bookkeeping software, so you can stay on top of your numbers. So my company checking account, where do I double check that checking account number? The systems of checks and balances. So that would balance at the end of the year. Petty cash. My accounts receivable on my balance sheet, if I go and pull my AR report for that same period, it should balance. It should be that same number, right? And then I'm going to just jump down to the pink area for the sake of time. And these fixed assets match the investing activities on your statement of cash flow, right? And we talked about investing activities earlier in our time together. So once again, the balance sheet pulls things from your accounts receivable report. It pulls numbers from your checking account balance, which needs to be, accurate and categorized. And then your fixed assets should match your investing activities on your statement of cash flow, right? And so they all tie together. So a little bit more on your balance sheet and your liabilities for this exact same time period. So when you're making sure things balance, make sure that your accounting periods are the same. So if I'm going to pull my credit card balance, make sure that it's of that same day. I talked about the payroll liabilities that are there as well. So it'll show up when you hit it through your payroll company, and then it will get removed as a liability on, say, Friday when you actually pay payroll. Here it is in your liabilities. And so that's your total liabilities. In your equity, we're going to talk about the business owner here. And the business owner is Deborah Wood. And Deborah Wood pulled out $135,000 worth of equity from her company. This is going to match the financing activities on the statement of cash flow, right? So once again, your balance sheet ties your P&L and your statement of cash flow together. Now, the final point on your balance sheet is your net income. So this business has $122,000 of net income. So when I go to my income statement or my profit and loss statement, that number, that $122,000 will be coming all the way over to that. And now in summary, our total liabilities and our equity is down there at the bottom. So a balance sheet must match. A balance sheet pulls information over from other financial reports, and it is for a specific statement in time. Okay. your profit and loss or your P&L can be run in a variety of ways. Just like Shonda said, you could pull it weekly, you could pull it monthly, you can pull it quarterly. Here's some examples from this ABC company. You can see the percentage change year over year. The P&L or the income statement is one of the most popular reports out of all three of these financial reports because it's one of the most easiest to understand. But keep in mind that your income statement and your P&L only address the operating activities of your company, not those other two. So you really want to get into the habit of looking at all three financial reports. And asking yourself some questions. Here's some other comparison options once you get into the habit of looking at your financials. And when you are going to get access to capital, or even when you're doing contracts and government contracting, you might be asked to produce your profit and loss statement over multiple years. And so you can pull those options and showing multiple years in just one report. That'll also, when you're looking at your P&L comparison, that's going to help you with your budget, right? So see how all of these things are starting to tie together. So I've got my comparison options from January of 2016 to January of 2015. I've got the quarter. I'm looking at quarter comparisons, Q1 of the previous year to Q1 of the current year. 6 months, right? The first 6 months of the year, and then the whole year, right? To see kind of how everything ended up shaking out. So when you're working on your budget, and you can go back and look at your P&L, also go back and pull your balance sheet and your statement of cash flows for each respective period as well. So you get a much, much cleaner picture and able to put together a much better budget. The final report that make up your financials is the statement of cash flow. And revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. And why is cash king? Well, cash is king because of the statement of cash flow. Statement of cash flow is your ins, how much in operating activities have come in and out. And I really like the statement of cash flow because it ties all three of those business activities together in one report. I've got operating up at the top, I've got investing in the middle, and I've got financing down at the bottom, right? Over a specific time. I like to read my statement of cash flow from the bottom and then come up to the top. Why? Why, Julie, do you do that? Well, cash is king. Cash is that gas gauge in my car. Cash is that burn rate, right? How much do I have for cash? So if I read my statement of cash flow from the bottom and go up, I can see that at the end of this period in 2020, Deborah Wood had $17,000 left. Well, I can look at that and I can see what my burn rate is. And if my burn rate is $40,000, Deborah doesn't have enough cash to even cover half of her next month, right? So I'm going to look at that number and then I'm going to read it. I'm going to read these other two areas that are in white. My net cash increase for the period was negative. Okay, why? Right, so I'm going to write a note off of that. Why was it negative? And my cash at the beginning of the period was $29,000. So 29 minus 12 gives us 17. And when I'm looking at my statement of cash flow, I'm going to pull my statement of cash flow from the previous period and have my statement of cash flow for the current period, because that 29,000 should be the cash at the end of the previous period, right? So they should tie together. Now we're going to take it to the top for operating activities. Net income. Where do I find net income? Net income for this period should match the net income from your profit and loss statement, right? How much money, how much revenue did I bring in? Now, this next section in the blue are those changes in regarding operating activities, right? So this is how much came in and out over a period of time. Your accounts receivable here on your statement of cash flow is not going to match your AR on your balance sheet, okay? Because this is the ins and outs in your accounts receivable. Your accounts receivable on your balance sheet will match your accounts receivable report. Remember, cash flow, flowing in and out. So you're going to want to see and look at all of this different activity. So net cash provided by operating activities was a positive $124,000. Good job, Deborah, right? Investing activities. This may not change very often if you're looking at your statement of cash flow monthly. You're not going to do depreciation monthly, much less weekly. That's going to be an annual expense that your CPA will put in. If you purchased some equipment and you are considering that an asset, then it'll be there in investing activities, right? So big equipment purchased from the company. If you did that in that period, it will show up here. And I can see that the net cash provided by investing activities is a negative $15,000. Here's where the big number really occurred in our statement of cash flow is in this investing activities. So we saw this on our balance sheet that Deborah Wood pulled out $135,000. Not going to ask Deborah why she did it. That's for her and her banker and her CPA to discuss how much and why and when and all of that. But if you are not paying yourself payroll and you are taking distributions from the company, maybe Deborah didn't get paid all last year and now she's paying herself. That's why that's going to show up in financing activities, because it is a draw or a distribution. Whenever an owner takes money out of a company or your corporation, it is a distribution or a draw, okay? Maybe they, if you make a big loan payment, right? Stocks or dividends, all of those types of things will occur in your financing activities, or maybe they sold some stock or what have you. So there's three parts to your statement of cash flow, which pulls in those three operating activities from your business that we started when we began this session. None of these reports are good or accurate unless you reconcile, right? That's that categorization that I showed you in those snapshots. So you've got to make sure that you're reconciling your reports and staying on top of that, or else all of these numbers are for naught. And when you are meeting with your banker or your investors, or maybe your co-owners, you're not going to be able to explain the numbers. So as a CEO of your company, when you are budgeting, you are maybe even doing some bookkeeping, you're meeting with your bookkeeper, and you're looking at your financials. Regardless of when you do that, whether it's weekly, monthly, or quarterly, make two lists. The first list is, I don't understand. This just doesn't make sense to me, right? And this now becomes the education in your financials. We only had 2 hours together today. I didn't learn all of this overnight. So let's be very, very clear. When I first started my first business, I showed up to my CPA's office with a shoebox and a whole lot of paper. I didn't even have it in a spreadsheet. I didn't even have it on a tablet. So who can help you? Who can help you understand, make sense, get your chart of accounts set up, right? That's your one list when you start looking at it. Your other list as your CEO action item of your corporation is, what do you like? What is working? What is working from our business plan and our strategy? If you have a plan and you have a strategy, trust the plan. Give it time to work the strategy. Be proactive and stop doing the things that you don't like. Give yourself a time frame. I'm going to, try this new product or service for 3 months. At that time, I'm either going to change it, modify it, or cut it. right? That list of what you like, what you do like, what is working, keep doing, and what you don't like, stop doing. This is the basis for the changes for your 12 to 24 month forecast and cash flow, as well as your budget, right? So, in summary, as we begin to wrap up, look at your financials as frequently as you can. When you look at them, make two lists, what you don't understand and what doesn't make sense. These lists can also work when you're doing your budget. When you're researching your bookkeeping software, take into consideration things that are important to you and your business operations. I want to share some other sessions that are going on as well to help you in your financial journey. Houston Community College, we're doing a 3-part financial series from 9 to noon, and it's these 3 days. And we're taking some of this information and elaborating on it and adding a whole lot more. If you're interested in that, shoot me an email. And then each month we do a portal tour for the B2G Victory portal. Each of you, if you email hello@B2G Victory, I'll give you a year free of the tour. And then we're going to walk you through each month different benefits, different new things that we've added to the tour, as well as all of the different great things that we have planned for the B2G Victory portal, because it is growing and evolving as each and every one of us does every day. Would love to hear from each of you one thing that you're going to take away from today, as well as when are you going to put that maybe one thing or 5 things into action. Maybe I'm going to start looking at my financials every month, and I'm going to start that in August. So go ahead and chime in on our chat for the takeaways from today and when you're going to put them into action. Start looking at my financials on a regular basis. Wonderful. And Natalie, what would be a few things that you think some of your clients and clients could benefit from the content that we went over today?
I think the biggest portion here, or the biggest important thing for any business owner, and even for my clients as well, is understanding your P&L, your debt schedule, understanding how it works, because you'll come to a point where you're needing working capital, you're needing some type of lending, and unfortunately, people don't understand how to look at a P&L, how to look at a debt schedule, and they're pulling things last minute. So if you have all of these things from the start and you start working to show cash flow whenever you do need that, working capital, whenever you do need that loan for any necessary things that you need, you have the items that are needed. So it's important for you. I encourage all of you, if you haven't, started doing that, start doing it, connect with one of us so that we could help you how to keep track of all of that.
Exactly. And I'll just chime in again. And in addition to, you need to really understand your numbers. You need to understand your monthly cash flow. You need to understand your P&Ls. You need to understand also your balance sheet. So here's something that a lot of people don't understand. You could be profitable, but not cash flowing, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the year, you could be, on paper, you can show as being very profitable, but if you're not cash flowing or you don't understand your cash flow cycles, then that could hinder you from getting a loan, obtaining financing, things of that nature. So, I just want everyone to be mindful of that. Also, when we talked about taxes briefly, when you're doing your taxes and your tax planning, please understand that if you are making decent revenue in your company, and you're doing well, owing the IRS is not a bad thing. As long as you owe the IRS, that means you're doing pretty good in your business, right? And if you have your business entity set up the proper way, then you don't owe the IRS. Your business owes the IRS. So those are some tips and tricks to keep in mind, you know, so that you understand going forward. So can we get some last words from Julie or Natalie?
I put my contact information there for those that are on the line and for those that are going to be listening to afterwards, you know, that it is being recorded. I will be more than happy to jump on a call, have a one-on-one with you, share some information that we have here as well that could help your business grow and flourish. It's important, you know, to have people like Miss Julie, like Miss Sharonda, like myself, be part of your journey in your business. Because once you have someone like one of us that sees your vision, understands what your goals are, we're going to make sure that we're going to help you grow and get you to where that next step is. So we are here to be your advocates. I see that Tiffany, you raised your hand if you want to come off mute and let us know what your questions are.
Yeah, I've been having a little bit of difficulty trying to build my business credit. I think I started first by doing a gas card, but even that was a little difficult. So I'm looking for avenues to build that.
What type of business do you have?
So I am a federal IT contractor, I should say, and I'm going more for the federal side than I am the state side.
Okay.
And I just actually got my first contract.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm a big proponent, big advocate for getting contracts. That is a lot of people just don't understand or don't do it. But anyway, so when you talk about building your business credit, is that so that you can obtain financing?
I think it's everything in combined, right? They say that if you know, my personal credit is okay, but I want to build my business image. So I want to, you know, take the spotlight off of me and, you know, begin with either, I guess, a credit card at Staples or something of the other. But I find that when I went on YouTube, that every avenue they said try to start with a gas card or a Staples, I still found that very difficult to do because it was either they've all started watching them too and made it even difficult for people to do it because they say, oh, it's really easy, you just do this. But I found that it wasn't as easy as they said it was.
So here's the thing. When you apply for business credit card, they're all going to ask you for your social. They're all going to want a personal guarantee. Okay. That's one thing you should understand. From personal experience, I'm not an expert, but in my own small business, building my own small business credit profile, if I were you, I would check out a Capital One business card. Wherever you bank, you could check with them. Wherever you have your business bank account, check with them to see if they offer a secured card for your business. That's another avenue that you can go. Or you can go over to Veritex and open a women-owned small business bank account and see what options they have for you.
Yeah, because I did try Wells Fargo, but I always got the, oh, we're not doing that yet, or something. I can't remember exactly, but each time I go to look first at the secured credit card, it was like, oh, well, we're not doing that program right now. So I may have to do that with Veritex.
I'm gonna go ahead and put my information on the chat. Give me a call right after we finish with this meeting and I'll go ahead and schedule a one-on-one with you so that we could help you grow as you're growing your business, help you with that working capital that you need, help you build that credit on your business.
Also, another avenue you could go is, I know that you're in the federal in IT contracting space, but get like a net 30 accounts. So do a net 30 account with like Uline, go to uline.com, or I think it's Quail, QUALL.com. Those are net 30 accounts that can help you build your business credit profile as well. And have you went to Dun & Bradstreet to create a small business credit profile?
So I do have it done DNS number, but I really haven't used that portal to do that. And I heard that was another thing. So of course
Well,
the financial part is always the hardest, right? And so I'm trying to pay attention to all the avenues to go to. And I just thought that since that no one uses the DUNS number anymore, that wasn't going to be a good avenue.
so,
Oops, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, Julie.
So, yes, the DUNS number is being phased out in the federal space, and it's been replaced with the UEI number. A few state and local agencies still use the DUNS number. You don't have to pay for that, like you've already found out. But I've built our business credit by setting up credit with our vendors, even if it's just Uline or our printer, or even, just a small vendor down the road, as well as a big thing that really helped us with our business credit and taking it from a personal guarantee and a personal credit to business credit was setting up a line of credit and having that set up and then using it and then paying it back. So once they see that the business is financially stable and can take debt or capital and use capital wisely and pay it back, that's really what they're looking for. And so I would make sure that you have obviously a business bank account, a business credit card that you're also using, and then talk to Natalie about a line of credit. And then also I've noticed when I've spoken to investors or gone for different access to capital, setting up a checking account and a savings account so that on your balance sheet and your statement of cash flow, they're seeing that you are consciously putting money away in a savings account. You are preparing for the future. You're aware that you need to manage your cash differently. So those are a few things as a business owner that I've done that have definitely worked for us.
Something important as well is you mentioned, Julie, the business account, that savings account for your business, but also having your personal account separate from your business, because what happens is that a lot of business owners are just utilizing the business account for everything, for all the personal expenses. Everything is all going through that account. And at the end of the year, whenever it comes to, getting ready for your taxes, it's not good, to have it all in one account. You keep it separate so that whenever you are looking for financials, you're trying to pull things here, everything is on its own, personal on one side and the business on the other side.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. And I do have to clean that up a little bit because I do try to keep my expenses and personal separate. But the one thing that I noticed as going through this seminar is that I realize that I need help, and I need help with, I need support more than anything, because with the traditional lines of credit, you don't get the support that you need. And as a startup business, a minority business, I'm struggling here to find the avenues on my own, even with the agencies that say, oh, well, we help you get federal contracts. I've had more problems with trying to get help that I feel like I'm just out here on my own, and I shouldn't be.
So but you've won your first contract, right?
Yes, but that was through my own doing.
So, I'll just be upfront and honest with you. So here at TrueFund, we do offer no cost assistance and business advisory services. And the reason we're able to do that is because we are a nonprofit. Even though we are a lender and we loan money to small businesses, we are a nonprofit. So we get support to be able to put on things like this at no cost to the participants or the clients. And that's why we can offer business advisory services. But I'm going to tell you something. Yes, a lot of these agencies will tell you that they, will offer you support on specialized things for free, but, honestly, nothing is really free. But when you're looking for specific help, transactional help down the line, of how do I apply for a contract? How do I win this contract? What are the components of my bid? You have to be prepared to pay for that information.
And that's one of the services that B2G Victory provides. And we realize that not everybody can pay for that. And so that's also another reason why we created the portal. And also, you know, we're not always available Saturday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or Tuesday morning at 2 a.m. when other business owners finally have time to focus on that. And so that was the premise of my master's thesis, as well as the B2G Victory portal, is to have anytime affordable resources for businesses that complement and supplement things like Today, supplement Score, and everything, and kind of tie it all together. So I look forward to Tiffany talking a little bit more offline, and I'll put my email address here.
Okay, I appreciate that, because as I want to get into the SBA 8A program, and until I have everything, all my finances and everything straightened away, and they see that a good candidate, I thought I would try it before I had everything in place, but I realized that it's best if I have everything in place for my own success.
Right. And
Yes.
I'll tell you something else. I know you want to do, you're going after federal contracts, but something that could help you and could build your capability statement is if you apply for some, some things that you can some contracts that you can get, that are easier and more local. So I've signed up with Bonfire and other places, and I do see several requests or several RFPs for IT professionals. So that
tons.
might help you.
Tons. There's a company, Tiffany, that we work with that I can get some sample bids for you. You're here in Texas, is that correct?
Yes, I'm here in Houston, and I have tried to work with the city of Houston, but boy, that was a very difficult and emotional roller coaster. And I didn't get the resources that I thought I would. And I did submit a bid. I really did. And they followed up, and I thought I had some chance, but they're another one that's very difficult. And unless I know there's a lot of people out there who say, well, you have to go out there and do the research and find the bids. And I did that, but I felt that they fell short when I said, okay, does this look good enough for me to submit? It doesn't have to be perfect. But when I asked them, they said, oh, we can't give, that's a conflict of interest. We can't give you any help. But your website says that you can help me.
Yes, and there's, different agencies work differently. For example, the state of Texas, there are 178 state agencies that need IT help. In the Houston area alone, just the Houston metro area, there are 22 independent school districts that need IT help as well.
Right. Yeah, so, and I know that is a factor there, but I get so consumed with what they need and trying to fulfill this, it overwhelms me. And I feel that they're almost finding ways to keep me from bidding on it, because the process is so difficult.
And that's what we do, and TrueFund does, and helps you navigate that process and make it less intimidating, less scary.
Yeah.
So we've gone a little bit over time, and I want Sharonda to finally wrap us up for the recording.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We appreciate your participation and your support. Thank you, Julie, B2G Victory, and thank you to Veritex and Natalie for staying on with us and helping to educate everyone on small business banking. Tiffany, please feel free to reach out to Susan, myself, and Natalie for help on your journey. And we have another webinar coming up, and it is on August 14th. And I believe the title of that one is going to be, it's going to be on our real estate acquisition process. And then the next one later on in August is going to be on certifications. and getting contracts. So we're going to add you all to our mailing list. And so if you want to join those are at no cost as well. So once again, I would like to thank everyone for your participation and support. And that's it.
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Have a great day.
Have a great day,
Thank
everyone.
you. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.